Hello, I'm Claire Jewitt, and this is the Diary of an Orange Cat. The diary entries of a thoughtful, slightly neurotic ginger cat named Weasley, written from a small harbour community in New Zealand. Last time, Weasley was dealing with dogs, rats, and a series of events that didn't go entirely to plan. This week, things take a slightly more sophisticated turn into the world of online dating. A world where not everything, or everyone, is quite what it seems. This is What's New Pussycat. And before we begin, I'd just like to say that I have never given any serious consideration to online dating. Not least because I feel it raises a number of rather awkward practical questions, which frankly I'd rather not go into. Wednesday, 3rd July 2019. I don't know whose bright idea it was to have our mindfulness meeting at Squeak's house this evening. We normally have it under the deck at mine, and to be honest, I wasn't that comfortable about this last-minute change of plan. Not only did it mean that Seraphina would be late because it was further for her to go, but it also meant that I was going to have to cross the road. I'd just finished my dinner when Ron called round and we set off for Squeak's together. Without giving it a second thought, Ron confidently loped across the road and waited while I dithered on the curb, trying to remember to look right, look left, then right again. Was it left, then right, then left again? Of course, by the time I'd finished my drill, a car had pulled out from on the spot and I had to go through the whole rigmarole all over again. "What's wrong with your neck? You look like you're watching a tennis match," shouted Ron from the opposite side of the road. I replied saying there was nothing wrong with my neck and that I was just doing my curb drill. Remembering something that Whittaker had told me about not allowing fear to dictate our lives when he'd been keynote speaker at one of our group meetings, I took a deep breath, did another quick check, then walked smartly across the road. It wasn't until I got to the other side that I remembered Whittaker's recent car accident, and this sad thought made me feel anxious about making the journey back home in the dark. It turned out that the reason the meeting was at Squeak's house was because he wanted to show off the new cat bed his owner had recently bought him. Ron, as usual, was more interested in Squeak's food and scanned the kitchen looking for bowls. "Why have you got, 3, 4, 5 bowls?" he said, inspecting the contents enviously. "Is any of this for us, or do you just get a smorgasbord laid on every evening?" Without waiting for Squeak's response, Ron glanced into the lounge and gave a low whistle. "Oh, is this it?" Squeak proudly ushered us both into the lounge where, in pride of place near the fire, sat one of the most cosy-looking cat beds I've ever seen. "It's a super soft Sherpa fleece," explained Squeak. "I find I can go from wide awake to a deep sleep in under 60 seconds. REM takes less than an hour, and the quality of..." "What's REM?" interjected Ron. "Rapid eye movement. The stage of sleep where you have dreams," said Squeak. I could see Ron yawning as Squeak, warming to his topic, gave a comprehensive talk about the sleep benefits of his new bed. "Here you go. Take one home and perhaps leave it in a conspicuous place." Squeak gave a knowing wink and handed us both a glossy brochure. Ron lost interest in the bed and went to make further inquiries about the buffet action going on in the kitchen. Squeak was hard on his heels, and I couldn't blame him. We both knew from first-hand experience that Ron was a notorious food thief. I was too mesmerised by the bed to be interested in Squeak's food. I walked round it several times before delicately placing my paw on the soft fleece to check the suspension. It was divine. I found to my embarrassment that I had spontaneously started to purr rather loudly. I stretched a paw onto the fabric, which felt remarkably like Mummy's dressing gown. Surely Squeak wouldn't mind if I kneaded the fleece for a short while, just to test it. Glancing furtively over my shoulder, I heard Squeak's voice coming from the kitchen. "This bowl is for the dry biscuits, and the fresh meat is..." I half expected him to run through a list of the evening's specials. Deciding that the coast was clear, I crept inside the thick depths of the soft, warm pile. This was indeed true luxury. I see Weasley's made himself at home, said Ron, licking his lips as he returned from the kitchen. I bet you're having trouble fighting off all those hot kiddies wanting to take it for a test drive. Ron winked at Squeak, who looked a little sheepish. Hot kitties? This wasn't normally a topic of discussion at our mindfulness meetings. But of course, Seraphina was yet to arrive. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that before Seraphina gets here. Looking even more sheepish if that was possible. I've decided to try one of those internet dating sites. Really? I gasped. I genuinely would not have been more surprised if Squeak had said he was taking up ballroom dancing. Brilliant, said Ron, slapping him on the back. Of course, I don't need to advertise myself online. I'm already in circulation, if you know what I mean. I knew exactly what he meant. It was a mystery to me how he did it, but Ron seemed to attract a steady stream of girlfriends who followed him around, hanging off his every word. Except for Seraphina, of course, who rolled her eyes skyward after nearly every word Ron uttered. Ron and I gathered around the computer, eager to see what Squeak had been getting up to online. What's the site called? Asked Ron. It's called What's New Pussycat, replied Squeak, his paws poised over the keyboard. That sounds dodgy if you ask me, I said with undisguised scepticism. Aren't those online dating sites full of con artists? Ron waved away my concerns with a dismissive paw. Come on then, Pussycat, let's see what you've got. I haven't let it go live yet, said Squeak. I wanted to get your opinions first. We all leaned in closer as Squeak's claws clicked nervously against the keys. Here it is, he said, pressing a button to reveal his profile. Name, TBC. I'm a well-rounded professional cat with a passion for fine food and great music. My hobbies include spending time outside exploring, catching up with friends, and harassing dogs. I'm the founder and lead vocalist of the Diamond Harbour Cats Choir. We have a repertoire that ranges from classic barbershop to contemporary performance pieces. If you're a cat who appreciates the arts, you're in for a treat, and I don't mean the edible kind. Likes? Leading my choir is my passion. Our harmonies make everyone in the neighbourhood stop and listen. I'm a connoisseur of all things kibble and am known to appreciate a well-seasoned piece of salmon every now and then. Dislikes. 1. Spelling mistakes and bad grammar. Nothing ruins a perfectly good online profile faster than bad spelling and poor grammar. 2. Budget brand cat food. I have standards, you know. 3. Cats who sing off key. If you can't carry a tune, at least carry me to my food bowl. Favourite movie? The Shawshank Redemption. What I'm looking for? A classy feline who shares my passion for music and intellectual conversation. Someone who won't judge me for enjoying a midnight snack or two. If you're looking for a country cat that looks great in a tuxedo and is sophisticated and charming, then I'm your Tom. Join the chorus of my life and send me a message. Why are you calling yourself TBC? I said, racking my brain for possible acronyms. It's to be confirmed, said Squeak, as if this explained everything. I think saying professional is a bit pretentious, I said, trying to give constructive feedback. Is there such a thing as an amateur cat? You need to do something about the picture, said Ron. Squeak had posted a picture of himself that he had very obviously tampered with, stretching it so that he looked far longer and thinner than any cat ever looked. You look like one of those draft excluders that you stick under the door, said Ron. You might as well say, let me seal your gap. Isn't this what humans call catfishing, I said, using altered pictures and... What are you going to call yourself once you've been confirmed? Ron went on. Sausage? Why don't you just call yourself Squeak, I said. That's almost as bad as sausage, said Ron. No, you need a more manly-sounding name. That's why I put The Shawshank Redemption as my favourite movie. Is it your favourite movie, I asked, unsure why this might solve the manliness issue. Of course not, but statistically It's the most liked and least controversial movie amongst women, and it shows that I have a sophisticated but accessible taste. My favourite movie is Puss in Boots, I said truthfully, although I was doubtful that this would boost my chances of dating success. Not sure if I'd put that on my profile though, and I definitely wouldn't call myself Weasley, because it gets shortened to Weasel or Wheeze, so it sounds like I'm either a pest or I'm not fully house-trained. Are you going to join What's New, Pussycat, then? Asked Ron. I might, amused. Although is there really much point? I mean, Squeak and I have both been neutered. Shall we mention that on our profiles? Or maybe say we're gender fluid or something? Christ, no, said Ron. Just say nothing. Surely at some point in the relationship it might come out, as it were. Just say you've got performance anxiety or something, suggested Ron. Come on, let's check out the talent. Have a look at some of the female profiles. He clicked on the first one he found with enthusiasm. Name, Fluffy. I'm a fun-loving, affectionate, low-maintenance gal with a GSOH. I asked what GSOH meant and learned that it stood for good sense of humour. I'm a romantic at heart and I love walks on the beach. Said no cat ever, scoffed Ron. Particularly with a kind and sensitive male who is honest and keeps his promises, and one who sees his partner as equal. Good luck with that. Ron seemed to be building up a head of steam. I like to stay abreast of current affairs and am particularly interested in environmental issues. I'm also a vegan. Cats can't be vegan, can they? I said. We'd all die without certain proteins. This cat's a nutter. What does she look like? We scrolled down and there was a picture of none other than my very own little sister, Serafina Peckler, a.k.a. Fluffy. But no, it was the real Serafina standing over me, giving me her most disapproving look while I was curled up in Squeak's soft, comfy bed. I must have dropped off to sleep. Emitting a small, startled sound, I leapt from the bed and bolted out of the cat door. I didn't stop running until I reached home. I hadn't even stopped to do my curb drill. Dear God, this is exactly how accidents happen. For the rest of the evening, I berated myself for my careless road sense. My embarrassment at falling asleep in Squeak's bed and the lurid dream I'd had about the dating website filled me with shame. What would Whittaker say if he was alive and found out what I'd done? I had to congratulate myself on one thing, though. I hadn't forgotten the cat bed brochure, which I strategically placed right beside Mummy's computer before heading off to bed. She should get the hint. And that was What's New, Pussycat. If there's one thing Weasley has learned this week, it's that the online world can be a dangerous place, particularly when certain individuals are misrepresenting themselves with creatively edited photographs. Although in Squeak's defence, it's not entirely clear who he was hoping to attract, someone looking for a romantic partner or someone in need of draft proofing. If you enjoyed this episode, you can follow or subscribe wherever you're listening, and join Weasley next time. Things may be about to take a slightly more serious turn.